walk by, I hit you with sexy eyes. You look through me as if I wasn't right. Oh no, you didn't just walk on through. It's time to break it down so you know I'm after you. When I come creeping up behind you, that's me you're feeling, and there's nothing you can do. When I come creeping all around you, you try to resist my advance, but you ain't got a chance. I come creeping. You know I love the way you try to sneak away when I come creeping up from deep within the crowd. Hands locked in.
Hey, welcome back to the painting. We've got step 2 finished. I got the darker red color in all the breakouts here. As a whole, here, and I'll slide this down so you can kind of see it. The painting on it with the 2 shades of red really doesn't pop much. I mean, you know, it's just 2 shades of red. It looks kind of blah and dingy. Step 3 is going to be starting to make the whole thing pop a bit. We're going to add a different color other than red. My next step is going to be a gray color, which we'll be using on the grout lines. I can or could spray the gray on if I had a smaller airbrush, which I do. The only problem is you get a lot of what I call blow back with it. In other words, extra spray that really doesn't go where you want it to, and it would get all over the brick, and I'd have a lot of touch-ups to do. So I just assume paint it by hand, which means this part will take longer. Now, as far as paints and brushes, the gray I'm using is a latex. Make sure all the paint that you use when you're painting foam board is acrylic latex or just plain latex. Do not use any sort of oil-based paint on the foam board. It will eat the foam board. Literally, eat it. So I've got some latex gray color, which I'll be brushing into the grout lines here. Now I add a little bit more color to it, and these panels will start popping a bit. Second, on your brushes here. The best place I found to get brushes is either Joann's Fabric or Michael's, if you have a Michael's in your area, or any arts and crafts store. I would do not waste your money buying expensive brushes. They have those little combo packs you can get. They have like 8 or 9 different brushes with different brush sizes on them. You can get for a couple of bucks. I would highly suggest using those for this type of work, for the simple reasoning is as you're painting, the card foam board has kind of like a rough texture. It's almost like a mild sandpaper, and as you're brushing paint in on it, by the time you get done doing a few of the panels, you're going to notice your paintbrush, the bristles on your paintbrush are a lot shorter than what they actually should be. So you know, in other words, the foam board's going to eat up your brushes after a while. And there's no use spending $5-6 for one paintbrush when you can buy a decent quality cheapy brush, you know, for a couple of bucks. You know, a packet of them. So I would highly suggest doing that. Now the process of hand brushing is relatively simple. You dip your brush into the paint, scrape off a little bit of the excess, and then just go into the grout lines and brush it back and forth until it's covered, and then reload your paintbrush as needed back and forth. Now, while you're doing this back here, I'm basically just coating the bottom of the grout line. You can, if you want, and I'm going to try not doing it, but you can bring it up on its side as well, you know, and just cover the whole groove with the gray. For me personally, I want to try to leave as much of it as red as I can. But basically just that process going back and forth. And then you end up doing a whole panel. Another thing I would also suggest while doing this is have some sort of rag handy with you. Occasionally you are going to get some gray paint up here on top of the brick. You don't want the gray paint up on top of the brick, so your best thing to do is just to wipe it off. And if you don't get all the paint off, or if there's still a residue, don't worry about it. We'll tend to that at a later stage. So, but right now I'm going to get going on painting grout lines. So, okay, I'm showing you an unpainted one currently. As you can see, the colors do kind of blend in. Light red with the dark red for the damage. Okay, what I got done is this, and we'll fade to zoom out a little bit. Adding those grout lines make the brick stand out a little bit more. Now it took me to brush this, probably about a half hour, 45 minutes to do one panel. That's one out of 32. So I still got 31 panels to do. And currently I only have 16 panels in here. The other 16 are still out in the shop. The reason why they're still out in the shop is because I don't have room for all 32 panels down here. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to go through all the panels I've got in here, all 16, I'll get all the gray on. Then after I get all the gray on, I'll come back through and I'll get the plaster all painted white. And I'll explain why I'm doing the plaster in white here when I get ready for that stage. Then after I get all the plaster painted, I'll come back through and do whatever touch-ups I need to do. I do have a few spots here and there where I did dribble, right in here and in here, with a little bit of gray, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to do the same thing with the white. And I could sit down right now with this panel and do the touch-up for that color, but I'll probably have the same problem when I do the white, so I'd have to turn around and just redo it over again. And instead of wasting time doing that, I'll wait till I'm all the way done and then come back through and do whatever touch-ups I need to do. Once the touch-ups are done, then I have a fifth step I'm going to do with the sixth step I'm going to do. I'm counting the touch-ups as step number 5. I'll have a sixth step that'll make the panels even pop more. Good morning all. As you can tell, I got a haircut since my last segment. It's been 2 days now. I've been working on the grout lines. It took probably around 15 hours or so, roughly, to do 16 panels. But we got them all done. Kind of a glare there, so we'll go back over here. You can see a little bit better without the glare. This is the last panel I did last night. And as you can see, the grout lines give the brick a little bit more of a pop. And it's just one coat of paint in there. Our next step is to add even more color, and that's getting these plaster sections painted on all 16 of these panels. I'll come on over this way here. And what I'm going to be using is white, pure white paint. Now, usually plaster, especially old plaster that's been broken out, would have more of a yellowish look or a little bit more brown to it or what have you. I'm going with the pure white for a reason. The reason is my cesspool room, aka water room, is a black light room. Only lights in there are black lights. And I actually want the white of the plaster to glow under black light. And if I tinted it all, it may not glow as much as what pure white will do. Now, so anyway, that's the reason for painting them pure white, because these will glow under black light if I do that, which is the effect I want. Now, with my base coat being red, which was the first color I shot on the panel, more than likely I'm going to need to do 2 coats of white on these to get that red covered, maybe 3. I won't know until after I get the first coat on how much white I'm going to need to put on it. It's pretty much straightforward. I could, if I wanted to, as far as applying the paint, spray it on, which would probably give it a good coat the first time through. The problem is the overflow. Especially when I got near the edges, I ended up getting white on the brick and everything else. It just turned out to be a mess. I could tape it all off or cut a stencil out too to prevent that from happening. The problem is not my plaster is not the same on each panel. Each panel is different, and it would take forever to cut stencils out to protect the brick around the edges of the thing. So I'm just going to brush it on. In the long run, it will be quicker. Now, as far as brush sizes for doing this, I think I'm going to do, or what I could do, is I could use a wider brush, to do the main areas of it. And then for around the edges, I could just use a smaller brush to trim it. That way I don't get any run over onto the brick. And I'm probably going to end up doing that, or I could just use one brush or the other. I'll probably mess around with it while I'm doing it. But I'll be applying the white paint to the plaster areas by brush, by hand. Shouldn't really take all that long to do each panel compared to the grout lines, which took 45 minutes or so to do a full panel. So anyway, that's my next step, is doing the plaster, and I'll give you a shot of what it looks like once I get it done. Now also, I should add here, the white paint I'm putting on the plaster is not my last step. I've still got 2 other steps. After the white paint is done, I'm going to be going back through and doing touch-ups on all the panels. There's some spots, I don't know if you can see it all that well, but where some of the gray, from the grout lines got up onto the brick. On others, when I shot the darker color on them, it's blended over onto the red a little bit, and I'll just go back through with a brush. It will take some time and hit all the bricks and different areas on here to kind of touch it up. People wouldn't really notice it, but I know it's there, and it bugs me. So I'll go through and touch up the bricks and a little bit of that, this and that to it. So but the whole point in me getting into this part of it is the white I'm putting on the plaster is not going to be the last major step. After the touch-ups are done, I'm going to come back through and I'm going to be doing some detail work on the plaster areas as well to add a little bit different effect, and I'll cover that when I get to that stage. Okay, got the first 2 panels done. Didn't take long to do. The plastering is going, painting on the plastering is going real quick. Like I feared though, or expected, I don't know if it shows up on the camera all that well, the red is showing through. So I am definitely going to need to give these a second coat. Other thing too, first panel I was a little careless, and as you can see there, I got some dribbles. So I'm not overly worried about those. Here's the second panel I just finished. You can see a couple little splotches on them too. I think each panel's probably going to have some. I'm not overly worried with it. Reason being is the next step after I get the plaster all painted is doing touch-ups. So that'll all be taken care of during that stage. So, but anyway, there's a good look. Give you a close-up. Like I said, you can see some of the red going through. I will definitely give these a second coat. But between the grout lines and the plaster, the panels are starting to really pop. Well, we're back. It's been a couple of days since I shot the last segment. I went through and I got the plaster portions of the panels painted, and I was right, it took 2 coats of white to get over that red. Another thing I ended up doing on the panels is I went through on those 8 and those 8 onlys and did the touch-ups, which basically involve going over brick by brick by brick on each panel and touching up. Let me get backed up here a little bit so you can see them. You know, this is probably about 4 feet away. 5 feet away? Yeah, about that. The damaged areas on the brick, so my wife says, and I think I agree with her, look way more defined. I got one of the ones I haven't done yet, and you can definitely see the damaged areas on them. But they look kind of faded in to the brick. What I actually ended up doing is I went and took more of the light red that I used for the base coat, and I went around each edge. And let's see here if I can find a brick that looks really good. Like this one here. As you can see, it kind of blends over onto the regular brick, and I actually went around the edges and painted them in with the light red. And it also went over the dark areas and some of the grout lines and stuff. And, you know, I had some dribbles and different little things on them that occurred from when I was doing the white and the other colors, and, you know, kind of touched them up. But I think it made it look a lot better. You know, I think I like the look of that a lot better than I do on that. You know, when it comes to the brick itself, that looks a little bit more eye-popping. At least it does in real life. I don't know what it looks like in, you know, over the video. It may look about the same on the video. I don't know. But anyway, these 8 panels I did with the plaster on them right now are done, and as far as I'm going to go, I do have one other detail step I'm going to do. And you'll notice here on the plaster, you know, there's some damage that I put in intentionally on them. I'm going to make those pop out, and I'm not going to use tea staining on them. I'm going to do something a little bit different. So I'll do that once I get these 8 done. For you, it's probably going to be the next segment, so hold tight. Okay, last step in our painting process here that I'll be doing. The process I'm going to be doing is going on to the plaster to age the plaster a bit, because the plaster looks just way too new. I've tried several different effects. First one I tried was making Devil's Rust. If you have no idea what Devil's Rust is, go over to Devil's Gate Cemetery's channel. He has a kind of a how-to on how to make Devil's Rust. I can go into a little bit more for those interested. But it's a really neat imitation fake rust look. I tried that on those 2 panels there. It didn't come out right. It did give me the rust look that I wanted. I had done it in the damaged areas here on the different damaged areas, so there was just splotches of it on there on those 2 panels, and it came out like the panels were more diseased than really rusted. I didn't like the look of it, so I waited for it to dry, sanded it off, and did another couple coats of white paint on them to get them back to this pristine look. The other one is tea staining, and I've done 3 panels so far. And I don't know, get down here in the light if it's really showing up. But that's giving me the aged look that I want. Now, Most haunters are familiar with tea staining. It's a fairly straightforward, easy thing to do. Depending on what color paint you use and stuff, you can get some really neat effects. If you use black, for example, it gives it more of a dirty, gives your item more of a dirty look. The brown I'm using on mine seems to give it like a rusted look. You know, like something up above the panels have been rusted and dripping, and it ran down the walls. That's what I kind of wanted to look for, or wanted the look of, I should say. If you used green, for example, it would give a look of like moss. You know, that moss look. If you did a little bit of green with a lot of white in it, it could look like bird shit. You know, like the item had been hit by birds for quite some time and kind of run down the panel. But anyway, I wanted a rusted look, because, you know, these panels are meant to go in my water room. So I wanted kind of like a rusted, aged look to the plaster. Now, I have not checked the panels yet under UV light. I'm hoping they will still glow even with the rust effect on them. If they don't, I might come back through and lightly hit them with some white and tea stain some white over it. Because I do want them to fluoresce a bit. So, but anyway, the process of tea staining, I'll run you through that. I'm not using my tripod, so it's going to be a little shaky, and I apologize for that. But it's real simple. All you need for tea staining is a color of paint, which is my brown, and a spray bottle with some water in it. That's all you need to tea stain. Now I'm going to do this one-handed, and like I said, it's going to be a little shaky, so please forgive me. But you take a little bit of your brown paint, or whatever color paint you want to use, come over to your panel, and just do like that. You know, you're just kind of splotching it on. You know, it doesn't have to be anything neat or fancy. Then you come back with your spray bottle and just hit it with your spray bottle. And as you see, it's starting to run down. The more you hit it with the water, the more it thins out. And I'm finding I'm getting some globs here that really don't look all that good. At least I don't like the look of them. So I just kind of run my finger over it. Spritz it with a little bit more water, and then you get the runs. That's basically tea staining. Okay. Now, like I'm also noticing right here, it's a little too wide. I want a little bit more dirtier. So I'll come back over with my paintbrush and just kind of touch it up a little bit more brown, and then hit it with the water again. And then running my fingers over any thick spots, give them a light misting. There we go. Now I gotta do the rest of that panel. I got that plaster and that plaster, all three. And sorry for the wonky camera angle here. All three pieces of plaster will be getting this effect. And then once you've done this, you set it off and let it dry. And there you've got your tea staining. So not that hard to do. But anyway, that's tea staining. And that's the last step on these panels I will have to do as far as making them. Okay, one other thing I forgot to mention. Now we're getting down to the end of the vlog for this build. And by the way, I'm not done with the project by a long shot. I've still got 16 more panels out in my shop to paint yet that I haven't even touched. All they've got is the base coat of light red on them. Now what I'm going to end up doing here probably in March, I am really curious to see how these panels look put together and the way they are going to be assembled for the haunt this year. So I'm actually going to get my large tin out, which is that blue and yellow one. If you watch my hunt videos, that's a 20 foot by 20 foot. That's the tent that the cesspit room is going to be in again. And I'm going to get all the panels out, and I'm going to assemble them in the pattern that they're going to be in for this year's hunt. And I'm going to also dig out the my black lights and wire it up. And I'll do a walkthrough, both a daytime walkthrough of it and a nighttime walkthrough, so you can see what these panels look like all assembled and together. That will probably be in March after winter's passed. Weather's a little bit too unpredictable at the moment, and the panels would be up all night. I put up one day, take it down the next, and with it snowing, I don't want to leave these things set up out in the snow, especially my lighting. So I'll do it in March once the spring hits and weather breaks. But you guys will get a look and see what these panels look like together before, all put together before the actual hunt season comes together. And that'll take place probably in March. So I'll vlog it, and so you guys can kind of keep an eye out for that. But anyway, that's all I had for you. I apologize to everyone. I know all the segments have been about 20 minutes long, so that's kind of a lot to watch. So I do apologize for that, but you know me, I'm long-winded and like to babble. So anyway, got probably about 4 other projects all lined up, 3 of which I've got parts for already. So as soon as I can get all these panels finished, including the 16 out in the shop, I'll be getting right into another project. And I don't know if I'll do kind of a how-to on it or just some little snippets. So, but got a lot of vlogging to do over the course of the year. So there'll be a lot of stuff coming from me. It will be, 2 to 3 weeks between videos, more than likely. So don't be discouraged if you don't hear anything from me for a while. But anyway, hope you've enjoyed. Happy hunting, and stay spooky out there, people.